Leonard Ablat Gemara. Today's daf is daf Ayin Ches, and we're actually up to the Gemara, the very top of the page. And the last thing we're learning about is if a person sells a property because he needs money, he's desperate for money, it won't be a sale until he gets entire money. We did have a question about if you only have $1 left outstanding, is that good enough or not? And we said it depends. If he's selling it because he definitely needs the money, then he needs entire money. And until then, he can change his mind and walk away. Maybe he'll go sell somewhere else. But if he sold the field because the field is poor quality, even though he might need the money as well, he is happy to have a sale and a firm sale, and he won't, even if he only got part of the money, he's happy to sell. We also had Rav Shimon before who said that if a person put down money equal of $200 out of $1,000, you should say, I'm lending you back the balance to $800. There's a big machlek is what happens if he doesn't give you a cent. You don't even give a down payment. And you just say, okay, this house is $1,000. It's yours, and I'm lending as if I received the money. I'm lending it back to you. And the kinyan is money. Can that be counted as a kinyan money? That's a milva. We had a Gemara Bava in Kedushin and the Bava about Hamakadosh ben Milva. If you give a loan, Einim B'Kadeshes. So here in the Gemara here is a big machlek is a shaynim, and also there as well. That you olive. What do you mean by Kadosh ben Milva? Is it only talking about you owe me already money? And I said, you know what? Keep the money, and that's the kinyan. So that everyone says it doesn't work because I'm not giving anything right now. What happens? I create a new halva. I said, you know what? I owe you $100. I never owed you before. I owe you $100, and that's the kinyan. Can the other person say ki'ilus kabalti, like hanging on a dharma, as if I received it, and therefore money, the shibud is the money, or do we say not? Big machlek yishayim and say machlek is there. We're up to the top of the page. Pshita, that's for certain. Boil is a buni b'meya. He needed $100. He needed $100 desperately, and he wanted to sell. He had a few properties. One of his properties is worth $100. The problem was nobody wanted to buy such a small property. Couldn't sell it. So instead, he sold the $200 property. But he only needs $100 out of that $200 that he's desperate for. So he sold the other property that was worth $200 because I have enough for Gazuzi. He was desperate for money, but he didn't need the full 200. He only need 100. Loi Kani, he is not koina. That what we are that even though he didn't really need the full 200, only needed 100. And we say that Cole's man, he didn't get the full money. There's no kinyan. There's no kinyan there. But what happened? Because he wanted to buy another. Maybe what he wanted to do was use $100 for whatever he needs, and the other $100 he wanted to buy a small property in this place. So therefore, it's not a kinyan until he gets the full money. But what happened in the following case? He needed $100 desperately. He couldn't sell a property for one of his assets that he was worth $100, and he didn't find, so he sold it $200. But in this case, he could have, if he worked a little bit harder, he could have found a buyer for the $100. So he just didn't give himself enough time. So how do we interpret that? If he would have bothered himself, he would have found a buyer for that $100 property. But he didn't want to bother, and so how do we interpret that? And he sold the $200 property, the big one. It's easy to sell. But he needed the money, right? He needed $100 desperately. How do we interpret that? Do we say, since if he really wanted only to sell the $100 property, not sell the $200 property, he could have done it. Just take a bit more time, a bit more effort. And since he didn't do it, that means he didn't really care so much about the $200 property. Why are you selling it? The whole idea is that he doesn't really want to sell the property at all. The only reason why I sell the property is to make the money. But if I'm not getting the money, why am I selling? But over here, if you would have muched it a little bit harder, you would have been able to sell a $100 property. You just took the easy route and sold the $200 property. Is it like that? You don't really care for this property. It's like Mipnei Ra, so you're happy to have a sale, and therefore it's a sale. Or we say no. The fact of the matter is that he was hard to find a buyer for the $100 property. So he sold $200 property. It's not Ross at all. You need the money desperately, and therefore cold mind, you don't get the money. There's no kinyan. You can change your mind. Then the Mishnah concludes. If you, let's say, hire these people here, that's a dobrov, you need them to work for you and so on, and they just quit in the middle, then you can hire somebody else and charge them and charge them the original worker if it costs more than what they than what I what let's say I owe them $100 and for the day they only worked a half a day, but it cost me more than $50 to get someone in the balance. It cost me $75, $80, so I can deduct it from them. What about if it costs more? In other words, it costs $120 to find somebody to work a half a day, even though you only promised them 100 and you pay them 50. Ad kama seichel. How much can you go ahead? Omer Nachman ad kedes chorim. No, ad kedes chorim. Okay, yeah. Let's say they did $50 worth of work. You can take the whole $50 away from them and give it to this worker. Oh, 1 second. So you can demand it from them. In other words, because they cause it's about a double oven, cause a loss. So let's say normally it's $100 for the day, $50 a half a day. But to get someone to work for half a day, people don't want to work for half a day. Pay me the full day wages, $100. You can go back to the original workers and say, look, for $50, I'm taking it. Yesterday, you can even 10, 10 sloim. Or 50 or 12 and a half sloim. In other words, dramatically more than what you actually paid them or you owe them. You know what that's talking about? You could take more than what their wage was. If they gave you, they brought their tools with them and they gave it to you to say, look, we're serious about this job. Here are the tools. It's like our mashkin. You can have these tools here. We're leaving it in your house and we're going to do the job. And then they walk off. If these tools are worth substantially more than the wage for that day, you can collect off these tools, the value of these tools, to pay out to other person because they're causing you damage here. They're causing you damage. So bottom line, we were saying over here is that if the employer, we said that if the reason why you cannot do your work is because the situation changed. I hire you to fill my, to irrigate my field, go to your range and all that. So we made this is the rule to remember. If it's an onus that happened, it's not your fault. An onus happened. You meant to do something to work with the horse died. An onus happened, and it's not your fault. So then we say, it's mazal chogorim. The poil, if he didn't do any work, gets nothing. If he did a few hours work, he gets paid for the few hours, and that's it. If it's an onus that you would have known about before, that this is a possibility, so you sort of took the risk, even though the balabos who hired you also knew about this onus. So if they both knew about the onus, or they both did not know about the onus, we say to the poil, it's your tough luck. But if it's an onus that the balabos knew, but you worker didn't know, for example, you know that the river from time to time overflows, but this guy's not a local. He's from afar. He doesn't know anything about the rivers here in this particular area. And you knew that it could have happened, and you didn't forewarn them that this is a possibility, is a risk involved, anything else, then the Balabais takes the loss. So what does that mean? That means he pays them for whatever work they did, and for the balance, he pays them kipoil bottle. If you would have minimum wage, if you would have, how much would you take lower or to reduce your wage to not to have to do any hard work? But we said Anshe Mechuzah are different because they need to work. There's these kind of people, they now work, they go Meshuggah, they whatever it is, so then you have to pay them full wage. Based on that, the Rishonim say, a Malamed. If you hire a Malamed to teach, and suddenly the same thing happens, COVID breaks out. Oh, that's actually Makkah's Medina, which is a whole other set of laws. But if an ain has happened, you're supposed to tutor a kid, and the kid suddenly gets very sick. So if an ain has happened, we say to the worker, to the Malamed, whatever you did, and we don't have to pay anymore. If it's an ain that both knew about, same thing. But if it's an ain that the guy didn't know, for example, the kid has asthma, this guy had no idea the kid had asthma, and it happens from time to time that he takes a month off yeshiva, but he can't come to learn. Then you have to pay the balabas. Then in that case, the oinus is an oinus of balabas. No, you should have told the guy, look, there's a possibility that you'll be if you exactly. In that case, you have to pay the malamed for whatever he did. And then the chiddush is that for the rest of the contract, you don't pay like a poil bottle, you pay a full wage. Why do you pay a full wage by malamed? So it says because the malamed needs to learn. Because when the malamed learns, he understands the Gemara better, so he can teach it better. So therefore, a Malamed needs to learn. It benefits Malamed himself. And since you made a contract, since it benefits Malamed, you have to pay him a full wage, and so on. Like COVID is a big thing. Is I'm going to help him more, but no. So then he can still learn on his own at least, or something. If you don't get full wage, he has to get a job maybe as to clean floors. Because a pile bottle is he can. What do you gain from working? Nothing, just money. But you're not doing any work. So I'm getting pile bottle. Here, the Malamed actually, when a Malamed teaches, he is actually not only earning money, he is developing his skills. He's remembering what he learns, and therefore you're denying that from him. So give him money, he can concentrate on that.
So this
okay,
must assume that
sorry?
he doesn't get now. This must assume that he doesn't get another job offer of equivalent.
Yeah, 100%. If he gets another job offer, I'm talking about. It don't matter in a case where he can't get another job, no school year, you can't get another job. And in fact, there's this whole discussion as well about a tenant and a landlord. The tenant died in the middle of the contract. You still have to continue paying the rent. And some say the landlord is considered like a worker. And we say if an accident happens, the worker only gets paid for whatever they did, and that's it. So the family only has to pay till the time that they were there. But others say no. In this case, it's not like a poil. It's not like a poil at all. And therefore, they say that you have to pay the full contract. And there's a big machlekes. So if you've already paid out, you don't get the money back. This is also a school. You pay tuition for a kid in school, and then COVID breaks out. School shut down for a year. What happens to the what do you call it, tuition and all that? You have to pay. You didn't get your service. Who's the pile here? Who's the this? Anyway, big argument, and a lot of people were very upset in the last few years when they paid full wages and the kids didn't learn a thing. That's why. So what? It's still the same laws of commercial laws, paying. Anyway, no. Not good. I learned how to have a computer on and we have the other computer. Yeah, I saw that with my own eyes. You can see the eyeballs. They don't realize you can look at the eyeballs. It's not looking at you. And not looking at the safe on the bottom. It's 45-degree angles. Anyway, let's take Mishnah further. Okay, the Mir now says, what happens if you don't follow, if you don't comply with the arrangement we had in the beginning? And then something goes awry? Are you responsible or not? So basically, if we can fault it, if we can tie what happened wrong to what you did because by not following the agreement, then you'll be responsible. But if not. We actually had a machlek before about malachamav, malihacham. We had chilosu b'pshir b'seifa b'ainis. And whether this whole Gemara has anything to do with that or not is a machlekes rishonim. But let's do the mission. I hired a donkey to take my wares up a mountain, and a mountain could be slippery, and a mountain the atmosphere is much thinner, but it's cool. Instead, you took the animal, you changed your mind. You took the animal, you didn't follow what we agreed, and you took the animal, you took him into a valley. A valley is hot, the air is humid, and on the other hand, it's not slippery. The bika, or the other way around, you arrange to take the animal into a valley. Instead, you opted to go up the mountain. This is exactly the same, 10 kilometers. The May said the animal died. Chayiv, because we can attribute the death of the animal to the change of atmosphere, the change of the weather, and so on. Okay. Then the Mishnah continues, which will make it very difficult because the Mishnah repeats the same case, but gives a whole different set of rules. You hired a donkey to take down up the mountain. You took it to the valley. And here it says follows. Let's see what happened. You took it to the valley. If it slipped, then you're put. What's the chances for an animal to slip in the valley? Much less than on a mountain. A mountain, you're going up this precipice, and chances are you might fall. And if the Balabos accepted and allowed you to take the animal up the mountain, then surely you did nothing wrong by the Bika. It happened. It was a dol oinus. The pot. If it was overheat, exactly, an exhaustion, or it had a heat stroke, then chayiv. You only agreed to go on the mountain where it's not so hot. Other way around. You organized to go in the valley, you went to the mountain. It slipped chayiv because the mountain is slippery. Your fault. But if it overheated, then potter, because on the mountain generally it's cooler than the valley. If it got hot over there, imagine what would have happened if it had been in the valley. But if the reason why the animal got the heat affected the animal, or the exhaustion is because the animal, once the animal went up to the mountain, even though it didn't die straight away, it was already exhausted, already weak, and then it became vulnerable, and anything went wrong, it caused the animal to die. Chayiv. Now you see the problem. The beginning of the Mishnah makes no distinction, doesn't care what happened. And then the second part of the Mishnah, same story, suddenly it depends. Let's see what happened. Shemar will explain. That's two cases. You hire a donkey, suddenly became blind, let's say had a cataract or some kind of spots in his pupils. We had, which means like to take the army. But basically what it means is the government took the animal. They needed the animals. And the way it used to work, I'll see more later, is the way Rashi learns, other Sherman differently, that the government would take an animal, a fresh animal, they'd travel a couple of kilometers, put all the things on it, and the animal was getting a bit tired. They'd see another animal on the road, they would just seize that and and so on. So people would do is they would have to follow the government to see, when you'll give back to me. Because they didn't take forever. Eventually the animal got tired. So they would keep on swapping animals because they own the world, they own the country, and they could take whatever they want. Yes, but not just from property, this is from animals. So the problem is the guy went to hire it, but he can't use the animal now. The animal's half blind. The animal now it was seized by the soldiers. So he said to him, the animal's there. It's your problem. Mesa, so that's why, because as we'll see the Gemara later, maybe there's a possibility you can retrieve the animal. A blind animal, if you work a little harder, you can still do what you function. Maybe not such a heavy items, less heavy items. Or even if the soldier took to follow them in a couple of kilometers, you'll take it back. But Mesa, if the animal died, I rented a car from you, the car died. I Newsboro, the car, the animal broke down. I hide an animal that's functioning animal. It doesn't work at all. Then the maskin has to find another animal or give his money back. Saying about the they should come after wine. They should make a difference if it slipped or whatever. And the safer we do. The Reisha is talking about it died not because it slipped. It died not because it overheated. It just died because of the air. The Amrina we say Avida the Haktola. In that case, we say clear. I don't care what. It's the thin air and it's harder to breathe on the mountain, and that's what killed it. Not it slipped and not overheated, and they couldn't breathe there. Since I never agreed that you should take it to the mountain, you're totally responsible. Avrina or Avrina the biggest color. In the valley, the air is much thicker. The animal couldn't breathe. Like animals, something couldn't breathe. That's the difference. That's for the first case is totally different. Nobody slipped and nobody got overheated. We're talking about it died from exhaustion. You had all these things were carrying it, and it died from exhaustion. So now each one we can say in this case here that in the mountain, you know why you got exhausted? Because you took it up the mountain. The first part of the mission is because you took it up the mountain, you already weakened the animal, and then it continued schlepping, it died from exhaustion. So therefore, you're totally responsible. Or if it took to the valley, we can say, had it gone to the mountain because the air is crisp and cool, whatever hard work the animal did, the air would have tempered it. But because he went to a valley, nothing to do with not to overheating. Because he went to the valley, you don't have that crisp air to take away the exhaustion of the animal, therefore the animal died. So again, you change the rules. And the third one is Rabba Amar or Rabba, where you went to go, there was no snakes, and when you took it, there were snakes. It was like an oinus. So then the question is this chilas b'pshir seif b'oinus? That what? That you didn't listen to me, and you put it in a situation where you could have slipped, it could have died from heat. Instead, it was an accident, snakes. Isn't that the machlekes we had a long time in Baba Kama? Chilas b'pshir seif b'oinus. What happens? So that's what some people want to learn. In fact, that's the machlekes, the different answers here. But Taisus wants to say that maybe there's no chilas b'pshir, but either because you were a little bit aware, or because you've been more careful with the animal. You could have, there's no pshiyas here because, let's say, slippery, you would have been close to the animal the whole time, it wouldn't have slid. And the Itaka didn't slide. So, in other words, it's not necessarily a tchilas of a pshiyah. Anyway, something about further comes the fourth answer. The first part of the mission is Ameir. The Omar says, I don't care what happened. If you did not at all comply with the arrangement you had with the Balabas, Nikra Gazni, called a Ganef. And once you're a Ganef, you're responsible for anything that happens, even though it might be an accident, it doesn't matter. The second part of the mission is does not follow Rameir. Follows a Chacham. That doesn't call you a Gazan, so therefore you're not responsible if it wasn't an accident. We'll soon see that Rameir is, that's what we said. Which Rameir is this? Rameir goes a step further than everybody else. Yeah. It does say, don't go into Canada, don't go here. I said to you, yeah, but that's what I agreed. And Rameir says the moment you didn't comply exactly what we agreed, you're called a God. No one else agrees. So which Rameir is this? Which Rameir is this? Who says that if in any way you alter from what your agreement, you're called a Ganef? And once you're a Ganef, you're responsible for anything that happens. Who by comes to die. Now we learn we had this in Bava Hanois and Tzemer Litzeva. You gave wool to a person to dye it. Adam, you told him make it dye it red. Instead, he made it black. And Meir says you're a ganef. And if you're a ganef, what do you have to pay back? The original wool, the full wool. You have to give him back the full wool. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Rabbi Yehuda says im hashevach. Rabbi Yehuda says no. You're not a ganef, so no. Whose wool is it? It's still the original owner's wool, except now I gave you something more. I put it as a work, so then whichever is less, because I had no right to do it, that's what I pay. So Rabbi Yehuda, im hashevach is if the shevach is more than the expense, like the yitzia, you give him the expense. Im yitzia shevach, if the expense is greater than the improvement, then nice less a shevach, whatever is less. So that's Rab Meir calls you a ganef. What do you bring it out? Dilma shiny husam the kanya b'shinei ma'isa. Remember we had the Gemara that shinei ma'isa is a shinei, and therefore it's no longer hey chiefs like zela shegozel kain shegozel. As long as if it's not identical, it's not exactly the way it was in the original state. It's not. I can return it to you. It's no longer yours. It's mine. And therefore, nothing to do with changing the instructions. He did a ma'isa, but in our case, he didn't do a ma'isa. He just been hard to do a ma'isa. That's the whole relationship. Yeah, but you dyed it red. So what you did wrong was a ma'isa. You did wrong was you did not listen to what I was told. And we learned shini ma'isa is a here you did not do anything with the animal itself. Yeah, relationship is I know, but your shini ma'isa was different than the other shini. That's what you were supposed to do. The wrong shini ma'isa, exactly. Over here, you didn't make any changes in the animal itself. It's just where you led the animal. Okay, so that can't be the Rameh. El Rameh, the following Rameh. Magbas Purim. What's the story Purim? You raise money, funds on Purim. Now, the time we learned Magbas Purim le Purim. That the way we're having more Eric and all that. If you raise money for Purim, that money is supposed to be used for Purim. Magbas Seir lo Seir. What do you mean? That means that you have to give the money to poor people on Purim. That's what you have to do with it. And Magbas Seir, if you raise money for the city, lo Seir. And the Rishonim say we're talking about Purim as well. And the ain medakti kimidava. We don't say, oh well, this poor person only needs $100 to have a meal, and we just raised $500 for him. What do we do with the extra $400? Should we give it for some other cause? No, you can't do that. What you do is you buy with all the money, you buy the biggest suda you can buy. Then and then the poor people eat it. Now you have a lot of leftover food. Then the leftover food. So once you carry it out, whatever you're supposed to do, the leftover food, you put the kids' doggy, you sell that, and that money you could go ahead and do whatever you want with the stuff. Yeah. That's what it is. Now the Rishonim say a very interesting thing. The Rishonim say there's a Rambam, and the Rishonim here. The Rambam says that the Inyan Matanos Levyonim has nothing to do with tzedakah. It's a din in Simchas Purim. It's not tzedakah. It's a din in Simchas Purim. And the pashas I gave Matanos Levyonim is in order to have for the Suda. But the Ritva over here writes, and there's a big argument to understand what the Ritva is saying here. The Ritva says here that this money is not tzedakah money. It's Simchas Purim, and it's part of the mitzvah Mishloach Manos. Not Matanos Levyonim, which sounds like as follows. What the Ritva may be saying here is the purpose of Mishloach Manos is so you'll have food to eat at the Suda. The purpose of this tzedakah that they raised is not Matanos Levyonim, is to have, it says right here, for the Suda. So therefore, if it's for the Suda, it's part of Mishloach Manos. Helping the other person out to have money for the Suda. So either food or give money. Matanos Levyonim is a din in Abbas Yisrael. You want to show that here came along Haman and said, they're all scattered. We want to prove them wrong. So we give Matanos Levyonim. I don't even know the person, but if the person needs help, I give him not L'tzorech HaSuda, which is a new look on Purim, because usually you say that Mishloach Man and Matanos Levyonim both there to make sure everybody has enough for the Suda. Because
everything else is for the Suda.
If you're true. And Simchas Purim. Yeah, it is a Suda's Purim. But what mitzvah does it come under? Is this Matanos Levyonim? So you would think so. I mean, Pasha Pshat, it's Matanos Levyonim. I'm just saying the Ritva said, and maybe, I mean, they don't say that what I just told you about the Ritva, but maybe that's what the Ritva is saying here. That's the way I understood it. That Mishlech Manas is for the Suda, Matzon again is for Simchas Purim, and Simchas Purim is to show Ahavas Yisrael, and therefore it's a different thing altogether. Even Mishlech Manas, the Ramah says if somebody gives Mishlech Manas and he doesn't want to accept it, maybe you yite to the mitzvah because you did what you had to do. The guy never got it for the Suda. He said, there's something else to it. Even Mishlech Manas is to show my Ahavas Yisrael, like the Manas Halevi says, to show my Ahavas Yisrael. Anyway, Rabbi Lezer says, Magbas Purim Lepurim, that whatever you cook a Purim, tak goes for Purim. The Ein Ha'oni Lashoy Likach Menu Tzula Sandal, you can't change it, can't buy a shoelace for a shoe. Only for the Elim that could pass when you raise money from people, they gave you the money to have a Suda. That's what they gave it for. Elim Kain, unless Hisne b'maybed ansheir, unless you made up with the people of the city that you can change. So what does he clearly says? You're not allowed to deviate from what the intent was. The intent was to use it for the Suda. You cannot use it by a shoelace. And Rab Shimon Gamliel mekel. Rab Shimon Gamliel is mekel. So l'chaydu again, Rab Meir holds if you deviate, you're a ganef. Saying about again, maybe it's different. Over this, like clearly he said, it's Yom Tov Purim. There's like and nothing else. In other words, it's as if the money still. So Rashi adds, it's as if the money still belongs to the donor until you spend it for the Suda. And if you don't spend the Suda, he never gave it to you. It's not like he gave it to you and I want you to do something. Maybe in that case I made holds. Well, if you didn't really carry out what I want, once you gave it to me, once you gave me the donkey and I changed, okay, let's make me a ganef. Over here, I'm not giving it to you. Unless I'm not giving it over to you until you buy your things for the Suda. If you don't buy your meals for the Suda, it's not your money. So you can't buy shoelaces with it. So it's different altogether. Ella, hold on. The following if you give a dinner to a poor person, they tell him, I want you to take this money and buy yourself a shirt. You have a Mishalacha come to you and they tell you, the causes, and you give them money and say, okay, I'm giving this money to marry off your 11th child. Yeah, amazing. Something about number 11. And you say that. Or I want you to buy a shirt for the chas, whatever. Or layika by talus. The poor person can't change by talus. Talus even cholok. So clearly from here, even though I gave you the money, it's yours. You can't do with it whatever you want. It says clearly. Why? Because you're deviating from the Balabos's instructions. Talking about it may be different. Vidilma maybe interesting what the Gemara says here. Maybe has nothing to do with being a ganef. Maybe it has to do actually more to do with the donor. Maybe if the donor said, I'm buying this poor person a shirt, and then they see he doesn't have a shirt for the chasna, he said he has a nice talus, they'll say, oh, the guy never carried out he gives promises in public and he never does it. So we're worried not about the poor person, we're worried about the donor, that he's raising the suspicions of people should be chayshim, and you have an obligation that people that not to do things or to behave in a way that people will be chayshim you're doing an aver. Maybe that maybe that's what it's all about. Nothing to do with the fact that the poor person changed from your instruction. People will be chayshim. This guy says, I'm going to buy him a dress, some garment. But and he didn't buy it. Or I'll buy him a shirt. Buy it. It says, if so, that can't be the reason. If so, then let the bride say, listen, instead of saying because he's deviating from what the instruction, we should have said the reason why you have to carry out it should be a cast any suspicion on the donor. My Shmamin is approved, we should is because he changed from Balabais, it's called the Gaz. Second Mara says and he sort of became blind. My Vivrika, what exactly is Vivrika? So here they say that it's full of light. Remember we say a blind person called a saginar, to Chassidus explains, because the oil has to settle in a keli, but if there's too much oil, the keli cannot contain it, so therefore you become blind. It's not just a euphemism, that's a fact, that's how it is. Rava says Ava Zekas. Rava says that it's not that the problem is walking, not in the eyes, has worms in the feet or something, paper, can't walk. I would have loved the Malka. There was a person who went around, you said, there's Avzekis in the clothing of the king, which is like a moth. So the question, they quizzed him. Bitli kesef, is it in the silver, in the silver garments there, which is linen, it looks like silver, or bitli dav, or in the golden ones. The wool that was painted like red or gold. Ikidamri, some say Bitli Kesev Amar. One version is that he said, yeah, it was in the linen. They killed him because you're making up a story and you're casting aspersions on the. Why would they kill him? Because he's casting aspersions on the people whose duty, the chambermaid, whatever, their duty was to take care of all the clothing of the garments of the king. Or he said it was the golden ones and the wool, and because moths do not eat linen, they eat wool. The shefku to let him go. Oh, you know the guy. Here's big interesting machlekes. Rav says, when do we say that the person, the soicher, can't have any tightness to the rent to the one to the masket? Only that the first few days he can't use it because they're using it, but in a few days now he'll get it back. Okay, so the guy said, look, I gave it to you, it's your tough luck. But the government takes it, seizes it, and will never give it back. Then I rented a donkey. Where is it? Shmuel says no. I don't care. Even if they don't automatically give it back to you. But if they are like the way Rashi learns, if it's the common way where Tisha learns differently, the common way where they walk a few kilometers and then they change it for something else, then you should have followed them and take it. You could have get it. And Rashi says you could have hired another donkey to follow them, and then you'll get it back. And Tay says, "What? Yeah, Tay says like Pshat the Seichel and Mechuyev to hire a donkey to get his donkey that he rented. To have two donkeys now. What was the point of all that?" Anyway, so there's a whole other Pshat. Tay's Pshat basically is if they only take seized donkeys that are out in the street, not in the house, then it's your fault because you should have put it in the house. But if they seize anybody's donkey's house or donkey, then he says, "Look, Balabas, it doesn't matter if it's my house or yours. They were taking it anyway, so give me my donkey." Anyway, but let's say if they don't swap donkeys, then you have to give him another donkey. Even Shmuel might. Make a question. If you hire a donkey and became blind, or the foot hurt like in the statue became in frenzy, became a sugar. The owner can say, "Here, take it." Okay, you have to work harder, make sure it goes in a straight line, whatever. If it died, and here it says, or the king's men. So it sees it. He has to give him. What's going on here? Our Mishnah says that you don't. It's basically, but I can understand. Like Kasha, can't buy guy because our Mishnah is talking about where you can retrieve it eventually, so you don't have to give you another one. And the price is talking about guy you'll never get it back, so then you have to give him another donkey. El Shmuel makes no difference. Kasha, the chitem l'Shmuel nam lekasha. Maybe Shmuel also had a question like he just told us a minute ago. Depends. If they keep on swapping every few kilometers, then you could have walked with them and hire a donkey and follow them and then take it back, so then the owner doesn't have to give another one. Can and this Bryce here, why they take it forever? They don't give it back at all. That's why then the Shmuel's Maida, the Bryce says, in that case, you got to give another one. Can be because I'm trying to say in the very Bryce it says the next opinion of Shmuel it says this very condition. So I mean that's another opinion altogether. If it's on the way, you can say, look, got you, go get it. McCloud, what can we infer from that? That the other opinions doesn't make a difference whether they will give you back the donkey after a few kilometers if you follow them or not. Shmuel, so the first answer Gemara gives us, well, Shmuel will tell you, Lav mi ikod Rav Shimon Lazar. So I follow Rav Shimon Lazar. It's exactly my opinion. I don't know because Shimon Lazar. That's answer number one. Full of Rav Shimon Lazar. There's no two opinions here. It's one opinion. The Chsuni Mechsa, a couple of words are missing. Vachitan. You hired a donkey and became blind. The became fool and became a shaiter. The owner could say, here, your animal is. Meisa Shanas Zangaria. Has given another donkey. When they won't give it back to you on the way going. But they took it as they were traveling and they'll give you another one in a few kilometers, then Oyman don't say Rav Shimon ben Elazar. Rav Shimon ben Elazar says they took it while they were going. If not, another donkey. Just quickly, how can you say it follows Shimon Elazar? It says in the beginning, it says in the beginning of the Brayso, if you hire a donkey, became blind, or became a shaiter, you can tell him, too bad, here's your animal. Rav Shimon Elazar elsewhere says, hire a donkey to ride on it. The Hivrika became blind, became a shaiter, it went crazy. You got to give him another donkey. How can you say the author of our Bryce is Shimon Elazar, and there it says that the animal became crazy? Then you don't have to give him another donkey. And elsewhere, Shimon Elazar himself, the same Shimon Elazar said that you don't have to give him another. So what's going on here? he hired to ride it. If it's crazy, how can he ride it? I'm talking about for freight. For freight, okay, you have to work harder and channel the animal. And what the Papa says, the clay if you hire the donkey to carry glass, now if the animal's blind, it can bump into walls, or the animal's a shait, they can just decide to lie down on the ground, break all the glass, then it's not fit for purpose. And it's just like riding, then you have to give him another donkey. Stop picking tomorrow, Mr. Have a good day.